Okay, so here we have the first thing I shot on 16mm film, and I'll show you kind of how I process that. So when I get that back, I order a LOG Overscan, and this is what that is. LOG is, if you shoot in digital, you may shoot in log profile, hopefully, or raw, and it's flat. There's little contrast, little saturation. It gives you the most latitude to do what you want with. You can capture the most dynamic range, the most information in your highlights and your shadows. Um, and an overscan means it's scanned past the film gate, so you can see the sprockets that the gears use to pass the film through the camera, and you can see the film gate itself with little bits of celluloid accumulated on it. That's they they say check. You say check the gate. That's what they would mean. Uh, you can get what's called a hair in the gate, which might be a hair, or more likely might even just be a piece of celluloid that had peeled off the film. But so this is a log overscan, and you'll see that all I've done at this point is cut it into the pieces that I want and selected them and tilted. You'll see some of them I've tilted. I've corrected my horizon. Um, so then at the end, I have to zoom into like that one I have to crop into quite a bit. And some of them are like this one is just, it was on a hill at a funky angle, and I thought it looked more natural this way. And some more like this was just me messing up, and or maybe it was a combination of both. It's the first time doing it. I'm shooting into the sun. It's not easy. Um, but yeah, here we could take a look at this. You can see she's silhouetted. She's kind of silhouetted, at least, especially the way I graded it, for the first few shots, and it's kind of like a mystery. It's like, oh, who is this? I could see it's this woman. I could see she's in a field. She's playing violin. Who is this? And then you see it after a couple shots. And right there, clear who it is. Anyway, you get the point there. Um, so, boom. What do we do there? Okay, color effects. Yeah, that doesn't look right. It looks kind of green, right? All I did there, apparently. Uh, Now, a lot of times, well, it depends. A lot of times I will adjust the tint, which is what that is. It was green because everything around us was green, and that's what the light was bouncing off of. The green grass, the green leaves, and that's what we were getting. Um, so I did correct for that in Dehancer. Dehancer is a plugin that's generally used uh, on digital footage to make it look more like film. You can choose different film stocks and stuff like that. Did none of that. Did a few little things. The most important thing I did was this here. It's a film print emulation. So if you shoot film and you have a negative, before there were digital intermediates like this, before you could scan it and, you know, uh, render it digitally and deliver it that way, what you would do is you would make a print, a positive print of your negative. And this is an emulation of that. If I can get it to. click just this one instead. Where are we at? There we go. Okay. Yeah. So that takes us 90% there. And then I do a couple things, adjust the black point, maybe the contrast a little bit, up that color density. I also add a little bit of halation and bloom to give it a little bit of a softer, glowier look. Halation, anytime something is hit by a lot of light, like a bright source or something, as a contrasty situation, like you'll see in photographs or film footage sometimes around things like headlights or street lights, light bulbs and things, you'll see a reddish kind of glow. That's halation. And then bloom is similar, but it doesn't have to be red. It's just kind of a glowy softness that comes from older lenses. And they work real nice together and stuff. So I'm a fan, you know. I was leaning into the film look a little bit, but I didn't want to manipulate it too much. Just let the film do its thing. But they consider halation a flaw, and they're good at getting rid of that with something called the rem gel layer. So that's a story for another time. So then obviously after that, we've got our colors where we want them. We've got our angles where we want them and everything. So the next step would have been just to zoom in and crop out our film gate. Now see, this is the film gate in the camera behind the lens. There's a rectangular hole. Behind that is the film. The light goes through this rectangular hole and exposes that part of the film. The film gets pulled downward and it exposes the next frame. It gets pulled down a frame, exposes the next frame. That's what these holes on the sides are. These two perfs. It's got a little hook thing that grabs it, pulls it down, grabs it, pulls it down, grabs it, pulls it down. And so you can leave that in if you want to just be obvious about it and say, hey, I shot film, or I leave it in some grittier things sometimes. It kind of just adds a little something. But with this one, it was clean, it was soft, it was ethereal. I thought, no, let's just be more classic. Let's crop that out. And would be a copy of that, I believe. As I said, these first few shots especially, I'm metering for the sky and letting her fall into shadow and kind of silhouette her a little bit so you don't get a clear look at her yet. It's a little bit of a mystery. It draws you in, I think. I mean, that was the intention. Now, if I were looking at this, what I would want to do, if I'm being 100% honest, is I would want to go into here and adjust that tint a little bit, push it magenta more. Still leaning a little green. That looks better. Now it's playing back stuttery and a little soft. Dehancer, the color grade is just a heavy program, especially if when you start adding halation, bloom, and the things that are in that chunk, like grain, film damage, things like that it has to generate frame by frame. It gets slower, so it's probably playing like every other frame is 720 instead of the 24 frames a second at 4K. I think I have it set to on this timeline. I love that. that halation and bloom there. That's a great spot on these highlights. We got the Rembrandt kind of triangle, the Rembrandt lighting here. Great close up here of the Bible. We got more halation on her hand on the highlights here and on the pen. That's great. Just she's highlighting in Luke 14 there, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. This right here was my highlighting. I believe that is the parable of the prodigal son, which is obviously something I relate to, but you know, check that on your own if you're interested. This is not what that is. And of course, she's a natural. That's a gorgeous shot. Obviously, we got the light just edging her out there and blooming like that. Those flares, I love playing with flares, and yeah, gorgeous, gorgeous, gorgeous frame. Again, same thing. And we got this halation along the bow here. Is it on the film? Did he add it digitally? I don't know, but it looks good there and there. And again, edging her out on her arm, around her face, as we zoom out. And look at that. Look how rich those colors are, how full, just saturated, how dense and beautiful that is. And it's like she's glowing. It's I mean, I don't want to say you can't get that with digital, but there's just something special about 16mm where hard light people, most people when they're shooting digital try their best to avoid using hard light, especially as a key light. But something about 16mm, the way it handles it and just blooms it and rolls it off, is just the transition from mid-tone to highlight to just, you know, white basically is smooth and natural, and it's not jarring or sharp looking or digital, you know, fake. It's natural and organic, and it's beautiful. That is my Bible. That's why I had highlighted in it. Losing light at this point. And that's when the film rolled out. That was the last little bit of film we had, and you can see it kind of burned. The light, as you load and unload the film, you know, the first little bit and the tail of it get exposed, and or if you get a light leak or something like that, it'll do like that, and it kind of burns this one. As it rolls out, we get this one last frame of her from the next shot when I wasn't aware that it had rolled out yet. We shot this as it was rolling out, and we get this one, well, I guess it's a couple frames, but it's just for a split second, and I love that. I wanted to keep that in. I mean, I don't even know if everybody notices it, but isn't that pretty? I mean, that's just pretty cool. I don't know. Just a little flash. $16mm Kodak 250D, Krasnogorsk 3, K3. Yeah. So that's how I do it. It's not a lot on my end on the post end on color grading. Most of it is done in camera, and the beauty comes from the film and the lighting, and the model, of course. But yes, that's where that comes from. How that's done, what the process kind of looks like. Let me see here. So let's go ahead and highlight all of these clips. Turn our effects off, and we can see compared to what we just saw. Now, I mean, with motion picture film, with this Kodak Vision3 stock, you want to overexpose it a little bit if you can. I don't even know if I'd call it overexposing, but if your meter tells you to shoot it at NF5.6, you might want to shoot an F4 or NF3.5 or something. You know, I mean, I usually round it up and then add a stop. So if it told me like halfway between 4 and 5.6, I would round it up to 4, and then I'd go up another stop to 2.8 and shoot it that way. You almost can't clip your highlights with film. You can, but when you do, it rolls off real nicely, unlike digital sometimes. So the film wants that light, and it doesn't do as good in the shadows as digital does. So you want to give it that light if you want to see the shadows. You want to give it enough light to see those, and then you can pull things down in post or whatever. But that's the difference when it comes to exposing it, just shooting it on a practical level compared to digital. Turn those effects on and off. Can you dig it? All right, so yeah, that's how it goes. All right, that's that. Just under 20 minutes, huh? All right, cool. Peace.